Why is it that, throughout history, the most dangerous people often didn't look like villains? What links determined rulers, clever manipulators, and quiet planners together? The answer lies in a strange but powerful idea. Real strength doesn't scream, it whispers. It doesn't demand attention, it stays hidden. And in that invisibility, it becomes nearly unstoppable. Centuries ago, Sun Tzu, the famous Chinese war thinker, said the best way to win is to defeat your enemy without even fighting. But how does that actually work? It means true victory comes from hiding your strength, looking weak, unsure, even harmless, while secretly preparing to strike when no one expects it. This idea, explained in The Art of War, is one of the most overlooked strategies in human behavior. Why? Because it takes more than intelligence. It takes serious control over your own ego. In today's world, where people fight to appear confident and powerful, those who can appear small or non-threatening gain an edge because no one sees them coming. While loud people try to prove themselves, the wise quietly collect knowledge. While insecure minds shout for attention, real strength stays calm and listens. The battlefield isn't just war. It can be a meeting, a family argument, or a private relationship. And in all of them, those who play weak often win before the fight even starts. This video takes a deep look at how pretending to be weak has become one of the sharpest psychological tools. We'll explore this through the lens of brain science, Eastern wisdom, and modern psychology. Because when people think you're weak, they relax, and in that moment, they show everything: fears, secrets, and hidden motives. This isn't a guide to being passive. It's about taking control, about shaping how others see you and turning that into quiet power. By the end, you'll learn how to use this hidden strength in your everyday life, whether at work, in love, or in personal challenges. Because the truth is hard but simple. No one prepares for an attack they don't expect. And that's exactly why the most dangerous ones are often the least noticeable. Most people think power must be loud and obvious, that strength means dominance and fear. But that's a childish view, rooted in animal instinct and survival reflex. Over 2,000 years ago, Sun Tzu saw something deeper. If your power is visible too soon, it can easily be blocked. Real power isn't what's seen. It moves in silence, masks itself as weakness, and uses its invisibility as its greatest strength. This method isn't just a battle trick, it's a mindset. It's a smarter way to move through life, even when you seem like you're falling behind. This strategy starts with a key truth. The moment someone senses a threat, they tense up. Their mind becomes guarded. Their body prepares for conflict. Their senses sharpen. But when they see something that looks weak or safe, those defenses drop. And right there, that's where your power begins to grow. Picture being in a fight without anyone knowing you're a fighter. While others shout, compete, and expose their plans, you stay quiet. You watch, you listen, you learn the map of the field. And when the time is perfect, you move, not with force, but with accuracy, patience, and insight. This is real invincibility. Not the kind that survives hits, but the kind that never gets hit, because no one saw you as a threat in the first place. Today, this hidden power shows up in many parts of life. At work, you don't battle show-offs. You let them trip over their own egos while you rise silently. In relationships, you don't spill your deepest emotions right away. You stay observant, patient, and unreadable. During deals or arguments, you act flexible, unsure, even weak, making the other person feel in control. By the time you reveal your real stance, they've already handed over their fears, desires, and weak spots. Sun Tzu said, "Appear far when you are near. Appear near when you are far." It's the art of illusion, and your biggest tool is the other person's ego. Their need to win, to dominate, to feel superior. This can all be used against them when you play the role of the underdog. Because the easiest win is one where your opponent doesn't even know they're fighting. But this tactic takes serious inner strength. You must hold back your urge to prove yourself, to seek praise, to show off. You'll need emotional balance to stay calm when others push your buttons. But what you gain is a kind of power that can be blocked because no one knows it's there. It works from inside your opponent's mind, warping their judgment, twisting their instincts, and using every flaw they expose, thinking you're not a threat. Still, this method only works if you truly understand how people think. You need to know what makes someone lower their guard, why people tend to dismiss or overlook the quiet ones, and why, because of that misjudgment, you can lead a situation without ever appearing to take control. In the next section, we'll uncover the invisible forces at play behind this tactic. We'll explore how being underestimated can become a powerful advantage, because when people don't see you as a threat, they open themselves up. And it's in that exact opening that the real game begins. The human mind is easily fooled by appearances. From an early age, we're taught that strength means being loud, bold, and dominant. We absorb this idea so deeply that we rarely question it. And that's why underestimation becomes such a powerful psychological weapon. When someone sees you as weak, small, or unimportant, they lower their guard completely. They open up, not just to you, but to exposure. And that shift in perception doesn't happen by accident. It's created, shaped, and carefully triggered by someone who knows what they're doing. When a person appears unsure, shy, or delicate, others begin to project their own ideas onto them. He's no threat. She's harmless. I don't need to worry. But what's really happening is the opposite. The quiet one is observing, learning, watching your every move, because you, in your overconfidence, believed you had the upper hand. Underestimation blinds people. When someone thinks they have total control, they stop guarding their words and actions. They start sharing too much, speaking too freely, showing too many cards. And in doing so, they accidentally expose their fears, their weaknesses, and their real intentions. This happens because the brain, when it doesn't detect danger, starts saving energy. It lets its mental guard down, turns off the filters. And in this relaxed, automatic state, people become incredibly easy to influence. This isn't just theory, it plays out everywhere in life. In offices, the quiet employee who rarely speaks up is often overlooked. While others fight to be seen, they're silently gathering insight. And when the crucial moment arrives, like a crisis or promotion, they act swiftly and shock everyone. Not because they lacked power, but because no one believed they had it. The same pattern appears in personal relationships. The person who seems overly kind, innocent, or avoids conflict often leads the other to feel superior. And that feeling of being smarter or stronger is actually a trap. Because once we feel we've already won, we stop protecting ourselves. Pride becomes blind trust, and blind trust leads straight to downfall. This is the ideal setup for advanced manipulation. The skilled manipulator doesn't argue, they guide. They plan ideas without saying them directly. They use silence to make others speak, hesitations to mislead, and calculated errors to bait. It works because the ego loves to be flattered. And nothing flatters the ego more than feeling more important than someone else. That's why the greatest strategists in history often chose to look weak. Not because they were scared, but because it gave them the upper hand. They knew real power isn't about forcing people, it's about guiding them. The true manipulator doesn't order, they suggest. They don't chase control, they create it. And they never reveal themselves until it's far too late to stop them. But becoming someone others underestimate takes more than strategy. It takes deep self-mastery. You must quiet your own ego, resist the urge to prove yourself, and use every moment to study the other person. You must understand that every human exchange is a performance, and those who direct the show from backstage have the real control. Now that we've explored how being underestimated affects others, it's time to go deeper. How do we use this knowledge in real life? How do we turn this into action without drawing attention to ourselves? The key lies in subtle emotional influence. And that's where we're headed next. You're about to learn some of the most delicate and most dangerous tools in the psychological toolbox. Knowing that underestimation works is only step one. True skill is using it smoothly, silently, and without anyone noticing. To do that, you'll need a refined mindset, the ability to seem weak while remaining strong, to appear passive while steering the outcome, to give ground now, in order to own the field later. This is where strategy becomes art, where the quiet one turns out to be the architect of the entire situation. Because while the world competes for attention, you're quietly building your strength behind the scenes. But knowledge alone isn't power. The real strength is knowing when and where to use it. True power in love, in family matters, in difficult conversations. In those specific settings, that strategy becomes true success. Just most high-stakes parts of everyday life. In the ebooks go even deeper. emails, and polite small talk. Every move you delay, the situation is even more complex. Modern way, or social roles. Knowing stays calm, the confidence. Having technique, it's in disguised as authority, distant, not because you're weak, but because you're done playing. Affection, and keeps a record. How to? While you quietly live a life that no longer depends on them. Speak up too soon. Staying low-key and composed is a rare and powerful advantage. Or confront directly. But for growth and quiet dominance, the best strategy is a slow fade. Agree when needed. People often mistake flattery and loud confidence for competence, while quietly preparing their moment, waiting for the opening, or to try and prove you've moved on. Here, the game becomes even more delicate. When dealing with toxic coworkers, they lash out. Many make the mistake of reacting, or in a formal report. The appearance of obedience is your greatest disguise. With toxic bosses, here, you're preparing. Every moment you stay silent, your connections activated, sharp. When it comes to personal relationships, with a dramatic X, to be sarcastic and undeniable. Your exit already mapped out, and sometimes even their position. And when there's no emotional feedback to feed off, real strength isn't staying neutral. But what they're really holding on to is a story, defensive. And it's there. That's exactly what we'll dive into next. It's tempting to respond emotionally. Use you're already walking your own path. It kind. Here, no big talk. Just more space. You stop replying right away. With the manipulation can last for years and win without ever making a scene. If this message is striking a chord with you, even decades, smile, precision. At work, each of these is a different battlefield. Always show up. How to use these strategies in the trickiest. Beyond the Shadow explores Carl Jung's core teachings in a clear. Dialogues with the unconscious gives you a 30-day plan to put those teachings into action. More silence, less explaining. You'll find both linked in the pinned comment. Knowing the theory is just the beginning. Real mastery is shown in how quietly you use it, especially in places where power is hidden, no drama. This is where the ability to seem passive becomes a shield and a sword. A tool not just for survival. Every word you hold back, it all builds an invisible influence that others don't even realize is there. Let's begin in the corporate world, a battlefield dressed up in suits, but in reality, a real strategist watches closely, they smile outwardly, and when the time comes, maybe during a reorganization, the strike is clean. Because while others fought to be noticed, you moved silently in the background. Controlling leaders feel secure when they think their team is fully under their thumb. But behind your quiet agreement, your resume is polished. You step away the very moment they believe they've won. And it's at that exact moment they lose everything. The control, but all of that just keeps the emotional loop alive. You become flat. The other person begins to unravel on their own. Your silence becomes the sharpest edge in the room. In families, the trick is to keep things surface level. Say yes, but internally, they still believe they influence your choices. When you allow them to believe, and the more they feel in control, the more distant they actually are from the truth. Then there are the toxic friendships, where you're expected to always say yes, always be the version of you that suits them. You stop trying to defend your choices. And little by little, you fade from their daily life. By the time they notice, it's too late to rebuild what was lost. In your personal life, this quiet power shows up as emotional discipline. When you're criticized, smile, stay calm, reflect later. Not because their opinion carries more weight, but because you understand that reacting on impulse means giving up control. In arguments, let go of the small fights so you can win the ones that truly matter. Real strength lies in knowing which battles are worth it. During negotiations, start from a lower position. Let them feel like they're ahead. Let them see you as uncertain or overly flexible. And yet, quietly, everything bends toward the outcome you intended from the start. Across all areas of life, the real strength behind invisibility isn't just about shaping the situation. It's about shaping yourself. To appear weak so the world overlooks you. And when the time is right, to strike with calm, quiet precision. But one big question remains. Why does this strategy work so well? Why does nature reward the quiet, the patient, the hidden? The answer doesn't just lie in the human mind. It lies deeper, in nature itself, in the behavior of wild animals, in the silent rules of survival. And that's what we'll explore next, the ancient roots of invisibility. how evolution crafted this method, and why the most dangerous predators in the wild share their secrets with the most cunning minds in society. In nature, the loud do not last. A lion doesn't roar before it leaps. An eagle doesn't cry out while dropping from the sky. A snake doesn't hiss before it strikes. The most lethal hunters don't draw attention. They blend into the surroundings, wait without moving, and then act with terrifying speed and accuracy. This isn't just a method for survival. It's a universal principle. Real strength, whether in animals, people, or systems, moves silently, hides itself, and doesn't stop until the job is done. Modern humans, eager to be seen and praised, have forgotten this law. In chasing likes, attention, and recognition, they've made themselves easier to target. Because the more visible power becomes, the more others can attack, resist, or tear it down. Anything you can see can be blocked. But what hides in the dark moves freely. It slips through defenses, works from the inside, and cannot be destroyed because no one knows where it is. This is the heart of the final move, the one no one saw coming. It doesn't scream or announce itself. It arrives suddenly, after months, even years, of calm patience and quiet observation. That's when the silent player shows their true face, not for revenge, but because the moment is now perfect. The target is exposed. The guard is down. The game is fully in your control. And what looks like a sudden, sharp decision was actually set in motion from the first moment of stillness, from the first harmless, okay, from the first gentle smile that masked a sharp edge. Nature teaches one key rule. The predator never wastes energy. It doesn't strike out of anger. It strikes when the odds are in its favor. This is what separates the reactive from the strategic. The reactive lashes out at every insult. The strategic turns every insult into a guide, a clue about the opponent's mind. The reactive fights just to feel strong. The strategic already won, long before the other person even realized there was a battle. And the most unsettling part? The strategic never looks dangerous. They look distracted. They look soft. They look innocent. Until the ground disappears beneath their feet, and by then, it's too late to recover. This kind of power demands a discipline few ever reach. It means holding back the urge to seek instant justice. It means staying quiet when you know you're right. It means letting go of small victories, because with patience, you can win everything at once. It means acting with foresight, not emotion. Because the one who can wait wisely controls time, and the one who controls time controls everything. But don't get it twisted. This path isn't for the faint-hearted. Staying invisible means walking alone. No crowds will cheer for the quiet tactician. No one will notice the genius until the outcome is already locked in. You won't be praised. You'll be feared. And that is the real reward of silent power. Total freedom to move without resistance. And now, after this entire journey, because people don't resist what they can't see or understand. Through mental strategy, quiet manipulation, emotional control, and ancient wisdom, only one truth remains. The art of seeming weak to become untouchable isn't just a trick. It's a way of life. It's an invisible code followed by the most successful, the most intimidating. Can you take on this code? The ones no one can reach. But now it comes down to you. Can you let go of the need to be recognized and step into invisible strength? Before you answer, there's one final piece. A final message that brings it all together. Because the most powerful move of all isn't done with force, it's done with thought. And that's what we'll uncover right now. Nations collapsed quietly. Leaders rose without slogans. And regular people transformed their lives in this final step of the journey. Throughout history, the greatest changes didn't start with noise. When they stopped chasing power through struggle, the world belongs to those who know how to hide their power and began using strategy instead. The truth, as hard as it is freeing, is this: until the moment it can no longer be stopped. You don't need to prove yourself. A victory that doesn't need applause because it is final. You don't need to respond to every challenge. You don't need to explain in order to be respected. In fact, the less you reveal, the more you control. The less attention you draw, the more moves you can make. When people think you're weak, you gain time, space, and silence, enough to craft a total victory. A victory that doesn't need applause because it is final. Those who shout, threaten, and show off always on guard, always worn down. But the one who seems delicate, that person is left alone, are always being tested, overlooked. And it's in that invisibility. It's within that invisibility that the strongest kind of power is born, the power to catch others off guard, to lead without ever being noticed, to turn what is hidden into complete control. Modern life, filled with social tension, emotional stress, and competition, is a war zone dressed up as routine. Those who don't see this live in constant reaction, always explaining themselves. But those who do see it, always running on empty. They stay quiet. They observe. They wait. And when the moment is right, they move silently, without warning, with unstoppable precision. The tiger doesn't growl before it pounces. The eagle doesn't sing before the dive. And you, if you want to master your own life, must also learn to move without announcing your steps. Real power doesn't make declarations. It doesn't beg to be seen. It's only felt. In that final moment when it's already too late to resist. That's how I'll know you've understood the code, and more importantly, that you're ready to live by it. If this message spoke to something deep inside you, your story, your silent battle, leave a comment saying, "No one sees what does not provoke fear." I want to hear your thoughts, because this channel isn't just about knowledge. The next video continues this path. And yes, it matters, maybe more than you realize. Because those who master what's hidden master everything. And this journey, it's about quiet evolution. And if you've made it here, don't stop now. Click, watch, let it sink in, is only just beginning.